Man. Well, good evening, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. Um, it feels weird. Feels weird actually being home, and it really feels weird being home. I we've been basically at the Red Brick House um, mostly for the last year, with trips back home here, um, helping to take care of family members and things. Um, and I'm thankful that we are in a position to be able to help others. But I miss being home. I miss my man cave and things. It's been so long that since I've been here that I had literally forgotten how everything works in my man cave here, and started my live stream without sound on the podcaster. And so it was like really the first 3-4 minutes before I could finally get it working. Um, and I've got a lot of work here at the house. It's funny, when you're not around, things fall apart. My AC unit is sounding, outside condenser sounding kind of loud there, not sounding good. And I think I'm going to have to replace that thing because that's about 14 years old. So another thing to add to the list. But tonight when I did get home, I was surprised because you never know when Micah Parsons is going to do his podcast. His podcast, was about, I guess about 5 o'clock today. He had one last week, I think Wednesday or Thursday. And it's a new format to it where he's sitting on the couch. He's got different players and things out there. He had Derwin James this week. I believe it was Bijan Robinson he had last week. And it's more of like a regular talk show. I guess he kind of experimented a little bit with Big Play Slay, with that style where they were, he was in Philadelphia and so forth. And now this the off season, it's kind of better that he's talking to players and other teams because now it's kind of like not a conflict, so to speak. The thing that's interesting to me that seems to be kind of deafening is that we had Micah Parsons spending the national championship game at AT&T. Boy, that sounds bad. Wow. Spending in Jerry Jones' suite late into the night after the game, time with Jerry Jones. And then we have Mike McCarthy let go. We have Brian Schottenheimer elevated. We see them new defensive coordinators. Now it sounds normal. New defensive coordinators, new special teams coach, new offensive coordinator, new position coaches, and we've heard nothing from Micah Parsons. Nothing about, I'm going to miss Zimmer, or yay, we like the new guy that we have. He's done 2 podcasts, and there's been nothing about the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to say that that's kind of a scary thing, that he hasn't said anything. And I mean anything. Sounds like the condenser is dying. I think I'm just going to need I might be able to get away with the new condenser, but that sucker is definitely not good. And so you wonder, now here's the reality, okay? Because we got people saying, well, Micah Parsons is going to demand a trade. He wants to get out, just like Luka and things. Well, Luka didn't demand one. They just traded him. But the reality is the Cowboys don't have to do anything. They don't even have to get him signed for this year. They've got the 5th-year option. They can choose to pay him the $24 million this year, and then they can franchise tag him, which will be in the 30s next year. And they could do that. And the reality is with the way things are in the NFL, he can hold out, but he's going to lose money. He can push a hissy fit and not show up for games, but he doesn't lose doesn't get credit for that season. And so, in essence, there's really nothing that he can do to change the situation. But you don't want it to get to be a situation like that. I think, in a way, this is passive aggressive behavior to the Cowboys. This is, you need to come to me. By not talking without towing the company line, saying, yeah, we're on board on this thing, not saying anything is getting the attention of the Cowboys, I believe. He's already put out there, hat in hand, and said, hey, I'll take a team-friendly deal. I want to get this thing done. How many times do I have to say the same thing? I'm not going to say it again. Your actions will speak louder than words. And so when you hear that Myles Garrett is begging to be traded, when you know that the Cowboys have Osa and Digazua here that he's gone on board and saying he wants to keep, after you've already let go Zim, a guy that he actually started falling in with, like he did with Dan Quinn, if I'm Micah Parsons, and I'm not trying to read anything into it or pretend that I know anything there of what he's thinking, but if it were me, I would look at this and say, you owe me money. It's time for me to get paid. The last 2 years, you've let go 2 guys that were instrumental in me and my development. You have left me shorthanded and not been here to support me. I don't need to say anything else. Now it's up to you to start doing some talking. That's the way, that's how I would take it. Listen, I have gotten 12 sacks every freaking year. Every year. The list is me and Reggie White to start a career with. I am now ahead of Randy White in sacks on the Cowboys all-time list. I am doing things that nobody else is doing without the help. I don't have a great defensive line. I don't have a Robin on the other side. I have played linebacker. I've played safety. I've been cornerback. I've been in coverage. I've gone at the nose. I've literally taken 8 spots on the field. Hell, I'll run the ball if you want me to. But at some point, I'm giving everything I have completely. What are you going to do, Cowboys, to help me? And that's where I say the silence of Micah is deafening. We're a couple weeks into Brian Schottenheimer and the new coaching staff, and your best player has said nothing? Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So, there we are. As I sit here, being at home, the airline crash into the helicopter. As soon as it happened, it took me back to 1982 when Air Florida crashed, because we're only 10 miles from where it happened. And I remember Air Florida like it was yesterday, even though I was just a sophomore in high school. But typically, where my house sits, Davison Airfield is right over that way, about 6 miles or so. And we're on the flight path of the helicopters. And a couple times during the day, you'll hear the helicopters, usually you'll see 2 of them most of the time. They'll take off from there and they're headed up towards DC, because it's only about 15 miles to where the Pentagon is. They pick up the VIPs and they fly them into the Pentagon, and then they'll fly on back down through here. And so I'm used to seeing all of those flying over. In fact, if you remember when 4th of July, when Trump was president before, and they had all of the big flyovers with the B-52s and the Warhogs and everything else, we were literally on the flight path of that. So we had all of those planes flying over top of here. And it's crazy the amount of air traffic that you always see, airplanes. And it scatters, it changes because they try and scatter it around so you're not always on the same spot. But normally you will see tons and tons of aircraft. And that airport, if you go to Lady Bird Johnson Park, which is literally at the end of the runway there on a night, it's crazy because you feel like you could grab the wheels as they go over. You feel the jet exhaust as they go over. And we used to go there as teenagers and stuff and hang out and watch the planes come in. It's pretty, seeing the river, the planes, and the lights. But you look out and you can just see plane after plane after plane after plane stacked up coming in. That place is so busy. It's unbelievable the amount of flights, because you'll see one take off, and literally, if you are ever there at Reagan National, and you get in your plane, you taxi out to the runway, and you're sitting there, you're in a line. You got a line of all these jets that are in there, and they'll go around and they're parked right here, and you'll have plane come in, and then the next one jumps. Your plane will now jump on that runway to take off. And as you're turning, you're looking up and you're seeing the next one that's coming in behind you. It's like literally, okay, jump in, take off, this one's coming in. And it's like that all day long. I don't know how the hell they can keep up with it. It's insane the amount of people that go out of that airport, because the airport is small. If you go out west here, about 18 miles is Dulles Airport. They've got a runway that's 7 miles long. They literally flew in the 747 with the space shuttle in at that airport. They've got so many different runways that they can take off. National, it ain't like that. And you've got all of that stuff that's going on. You can't fly over the Capitol, over, D.C. itself. So you've got this corridor between the Pentagon and D.C. for the planes to come in. And then you've got all the helicopters from the D.C. Police Department and the Park Service, and then the military. There's so much that are going on there. It is insane to think that there hasn't been more incidents there. It's sad because I saw they had the families on the riverbank at the airport today. And they're looking out because they're taking the plane up. And as they were working on taking the plane up, what they said is if they end up finding a body, they'll basically put a tent up and try to, with honor, pull the body out of the wreckage and take it to one of the morgue boats that they have. It's just a tragedy. I don't know why I got into telling all this story and things, but those people, when they hopped on that plane, didn't know that that was going to be the end. Any more than that person who's driving down the road right now that's in a fatal car accident. We have to get in our heads that it's a blessing to have each day. It truly is. And nothing is forever. And there goes another one. I'm thankful for everything that I have. I'm thankful for all of you guys. And I pray for all of us. Remember, tell the people you love how much you love them. You might not get the chance again, good people. And I love you all. God willing, we'll all see each other tomorrow.